All right, here comes a really fun lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to be talking to you about our retail sentiment indicator. That's the indicator that's right down here at the bottom of the chart in the oscillator format. Now, this indicator is extremely simple. You do not need to overthink this. Let me briefly go over what everything means here so you understand how it breaks down. So as you can see, we have this dark kind of gray shadow here in the background. What that is the percentage overall long versus short. So if you look back from right here, this is the center of the indicator. You'll notice that that's our 0 level right there. Okay. So as we go above that, it starts to go 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 100%. 100% all the way up here at the top. Okay. Now negative 100 would be 100% the other way. These bars are exactly 100% tall. Now the distribution of the bar represents how many traders are net long versus net short. For instance, if we go back, these bars back here were about 61%. You can see the top was at 61%. That means that 61% of traders were net long, and that same one about, I don't know exactly, but 30-some% were net short. Can't get the exact bar in there, but you get what I mean. So that's 100% showing the distribution between net long and net short. Now, this oscillator is a proprietary formula that we came out. It's actually pretty simple, but it just gives you a real clean view of the transition. It emphasizes the transition when traders go from net short to net long or net long to net short. Just a very, very clean view, easy to read. That is how you read the indicator. When you see them start to transition over, we're looking at how aggressive it's happening, and we're looking at to the extent of how much they're getting pushed. Sometimes if you go back here, you could see that in this area, you had traders that were 92% net short, 93% net short. And notice that the market's going up, which I'll get to in a second. So you can see the aggressiveness of retail traders coming in and basically doing the wrong thing. Now, I know some of you on here that have been trading a long time might argue like, well, retail traders don't really move the market. So how does this really mean anything? Let me explain. The retail trader mindset, the fear of missing out, the chasing trades, the stop loss placements, all these things are characteristics of bad trading, scared trading, taking a trade that you're not totally sure about, that you don't have a good plan, that you didn't have a good entry. Okay. This happens even at the institutional level. For the banks that are competing with each other for that liquidity, there are better and worse traders even on that level. So the fact that we can't get their sentiment, okay, but what we can get is we could get retail sentiment, and that represents as a whole a trader that is not as well equipped, not as emotionally well equipped to handle the trades, not technically enough well equipped. It represents a trader that's going to lose. And so again, by having this insight into the thought process through looking at the executions through this data, we know what less skilled traders are doing at the moment as a whole. Okay, that leads me into the data. This data is from a proprietary source. We have a database that we've built. Right now we're running a single data stream into it, but we will grow it over time and get an accumulated average of data into our own database. But this is 100% proprietary to us, this database, and we're bringing it to you. This is a tool that not a lot of people have access to. You can get sentiment numbers off different websites, but to get it in an oscillator format that looks this clean, I think actually makes the data much more useful. So that being said, how do we use this thing? Okay. The sentiment indicator is all about the distribution cycle. So let's talk about the distribution cycle for a second. The market makers, they are accumulating supply, right? They're using the expansion phase, that whipsaw back and forth, to blow people out of their positions, push them to that pain threshold so they give up those positions, right? So when the market makers have dumped the positions they don't want, they've accumulated enough of the positions they do want, and then the market goes into the trend phase, it starts going up to higher or lower prices in a consistent fashion, they are going to want to distribute what they've already bought or sold that inventory at higher and higher prices or lower and lower prices, depending on the trend. So retail sentiment gives us insight into how effective the trend is and how long it could last. And it helps you hold trades much longer than you might otherwise if you weren't looking at it. Let me explain. So as this market goes up, you could take a look right here. It shifted. We had a lot of this action right here, had a lot of big news come out. I remember watching this. So a lot of this stuff came out right here, and then the sentiment shifted right here. You notice that traders started going net short right here. And I will mention this while we're talking about it. If you see these little lines right here, these lines mark the shift point, the candle, where the sentiment actually shifts from net long to net short. That's why you see a number of them in here, because we got a lot of shifts. But anyway, that's what those lines are for. So going back to the distribution phase. Okay, we've established that the stop loss is the most consistent way to understand where liquidity is coming into the market for the market makers. They know, not only because they can see the stop losses as pending orders, but they know that the pain, pushing someone into pain, is much more of a guarantee you're going to get them to give up rather than putting them in pleasure, right? Plus, you don't want them to win. So the pain threshold is everything. Okay, as this market moves up, you can see that traders are getting net short, right? They're getting shorter and shorter and shorter. What is their stop loss? Their stop loss is buy orders. So every time the market looks like it's topping out, you have traders piling in buy orders, buy orders, buy orders in the form of stop losses because they're trying to short the market. See, this is all retail selling, making the wrong decision. As they short the market, above these highs is clouds and clouds and clouds of buy orders on the retail level and the institutional level. As the market goes up through these levels, those buy orders, the market makers don't accumulate them in this circumstance until the trend's over. Then they'll start accumulating them if it's in an actually reverse. They let those buy orders hit because it's just more buying volume pushing the market further and further and further up, putting their positions they've already accumulated at lower prices more and more into profit. So by looking at this oscillator, we could see that traders just get more and more and more aggressive shorting, and that means that their stop losses are getting more and more and more aggressive. That will push the trend ultimately, because that is going to be much more reliable for the market makers. And you can see it just goes up and up and up, and they just keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, you don't want to get caught just trading this back and forth. I know you're thinking that right now. You're like, can I just buy and sell when it crosses? No, you can't. Okay, it's not gonna be, it might appear to be that simple, but that's not gonna be good long term. There's a way to do this where you can really put a lot of things in your favor and absolutely crush it. So what you're gonna do, if you've studied the basic strategy and gone through the methodology mastery course, what you're gonna do is you're going to define your overall market direction on your higher time frame. Just like the basic strategy says, you're going to still stick your entry on your lower time frame. When it becomes overvalued, in this case because the market's going down, you're going to sell that market. You're going to sell it right above these value points. And then as the market goes down, you're going to look for sentiment increasing or decreasing to know what you should do, because you know that you're in that distribution phase of the market makers. Okay? Especially when you see the market pulling back like this, you know that you could be headed for a contraction point. Whereas if you see the market building up, you know that it could still keep going. So it takes a little bit of art, but that's really what you want to do. And also, when you get these swings right here, you can see that the traders are starting to sell into the trend that's going down. They're starting to sell, but the market makers are still reaching for this liquidity. So you got to be mindful of that. If you are building positions with this liquidity in expectation of the pending move down because of your higher time frame, you can stay in all the way through this spike down, all the way down until right here when we get into that distribution phase. Because right here, the retail traders are starting to go long, and we're going to see how the market accumulates their stop losses. In this case, it looked like it was making a bottom. It didn't want to go, so we would close. But when you see the traders shorting or going long against the higher time frame trend, you know that you're in the distribution phase. It is safe to start scaling out of your positions. Take your profit off the table. Congratulations, you did the opposite. Retail always loses. And if you watch the sentiment, you watch how it swings and ebbs and flows along with the market structure. Remember to pair the two together. You watch that, you have an absolutely lethal combination here that other traders can't even fathom. This, between the sentiment and the sensitive framework, the liquidity lines right here, this is the best that it gets. It actually gets better, which we'll get in another lesson here pretty soon. But this, as far as core components, simplified framework, you cannot get better than this combination, in my opinion, unless you're a market maker. In that case, get off my video.